Can you make money at farmers markets, flea markets, swap meets, etc.? Today, that's what we're going to talk about, is how can you make money at these events. My name is Ken Wilton from Minding My Own Business, and I have been a professional pop-up vendor for the last 17 years. We built and sold two totally different businesses in two countries, the US and Canada. My wife and I worked 8 days a month. We made a 6-figure income doing it. We knew nothing about being a vendor when we got started, as we'd never been in retail. By the time we finished, we had a graduate degree in being a vendor. And I must admit, we also had a master's degree in making mistakes. We're going to tell you what you need to do to be successful and help you from making those costly mistakes. You know, it's estimated there are over 15,000 farmers markets in the US with about 750,000 booths and over 1 million people involved in their operation. 1 million people can't be wrong. They wouldn't be doing it if they weren't making money. The farmers market industry is growing at about 10% a year. Once again, it wouldn't be growing if people weren't making money. The U.S. has over 11,000 flea markets with over 250,000 vendors conducting over 30 billion, that's with a B, in sales annually. Flea markets are visited by over 150 million customers each year. That's half the population of the U.S. go to these events. I think that with half the population coming out to go shopping, you can do well. But one of the big questions always comes up is, how much should I charge for my merchandise? How do I determine what to pay? Not only what I got to pay for it, but what can I sell it for? What's the formula? How do I do this? Well, after 17 years of doing this full time, there's a big learning curve you have to go through. But it depends also, your pricing depends upon what you are selling to some degree. As an example, a food vendor has a different pricing structure than someone selling shoes. So let's talk about pricing for profit. Keyword, profit, at markets. If you're selling shoes, you can mark them up, let's say 100%. Now that's called keystone. Basically, you double the price. Now, doubling the price isn't a good way to stay in business. You really need to do more than that. You really should be doing more like 2.5 or 3 times, but sometimes it won't work. Sometimes you can't get that. If everybody else has a product that's similar to yours, and you can buy it at Walmart, you're not going to be able to compete. You can't compete with Walmart. If your product's available everywhere, you're not going to get keystone. And we're saying that keystone is kind of the minimum. If your product is a little more difficult to find, it's not available in every store, keystone is not enough. You can get more than that. Okay? Charge what the market will bear. You don't want to be greedy, but at the same time, you don't want to undercharge for your merchandise. You must be profitable so you can stay in business and service your customers. One of the best ways is to ask yourself, how much would I pay for this? If I went to a store, would I pay this? Then you'll know I have a pretty good gut check on that. But then you can go out and ask more people. What would you pay for this? But you always got to consider the source of where the answer is coming from. Someone who is, the polite word would be frugal. And then people that are maybe a little more worldly will have different answers totally. So pick your spots as to whose advice you're going to listen to. Check it out on the internet, check it out everywhere, and see how you can differentiate yourself in the market. Because when you can differentiate your product from what the other people are selling at that place, at that market, at that venue, that's where you can really improve your profits. Now, there's a lot more to this than that, because you have to know how to buy correctly and how to get discounts and how to get terms, and there's so much more. So we're only dealing right now in just the methodology of pricing. Now, markup and margin are two terms you need to come to grips with if you're going to be successful in retail. Markup is based upon your cost of the product and then marking it up, mark up to get the selling price. One of the common things is, going back to what we said before, is keystone. So keystone is where I would buy something for $10 and I would mark it up 100% and sell it for $20. Okay? So I've doubled the price. But if you were to sell it for 200% markup, the numbers work a little different. You start off with your $10 and then you go 2 times this is 20 and you add them together to come up with 30. That now becomes the selling price. Big difference in profit. One way you're taking home $10 to pay for some of your expenses. The other way you're taking home 20. But once again, it's going to depend upon the product as to what these numbers can work out to. Now, margin works in the reverse. It's based upon the selling price, in this case $30. If you paid $10 for it, you have a margin of 75%. Now, you often hear the term margin discussed on TV shows like Shark Tank and The Profit. They're always discussing margin. But for many retailers, it's much easier to calculate the price using markup. That's the way we did it all the time. But there is no wrong way to do this, as long as you understand the difference of what you're going to do and how you're going to price things. For ourselves, we found it much easier to look at it and say, okay, if I know what my cost is, and I know what my markups are going to be, that's a good way to go. But there's one other little key thing that we would look at too when we go to buy. We'd say, we look at the price at the merchandise and say, what could I sell that for? Before we knew what the wholesale was. So we'd look at this and say, well, we could sell that for X. Then we'd ask for the wholesale. Then we look at the wholesale and I put my formula together with that. And if the number was bang on, or maybe I was thinking I could sell, let's say I thought I could sell it for $40. Well, therefore I had to be able to buy it at the right price to be able to sell it for 40 and make my profit. So if the wholesale cost was such that when I put my formula in place, my little calculator, and it said I had to sell it for $50, I had to take a real hard look at that product and say, can I buy that? Can I sell that for $50? Would I buy that for $50? And if the answer wasn't right, we just have to pass on it. I don't care how much we were in love with it. We'd have to walk by. We couldn't afford to buy that product because we knew we couldn't sell it. It's going to end up on the sale rack. So you really need to know these numbers, because when you go to a buying show, which you should be going to buying shows, by the way, you need to be sure you're buying it at the right price. If you don't buy it at the right price, you can't sell it for a profit. And it's going to end up being discounted, and it hurts. And it'll cost you a ton of money. So let's get back to talking about the pricing now. One of the things that you have to remember is that your cost of goods, what you paid for it, also includes your freight. So if we're talking here in this example of a $10 cost of goods, what we paid for the product, that would include our freight. Now, it doesn't include things like our overhead, booth rent, the gas to get there, your any staffing costs, or whatever else. That comes out of this side of the equation. It's got nothing to do with how you do your multiplying to determine what you're going to sell it for. So the only thing that goes towards the cost before you apply your profit is anything directly associated with the purchase of the product, not the sale of the product. So booth rent and other overhead items are not part of that price. We've only touched on the basics here. To really understand how to explode your earnings and the power of your booth, you need to click on the link that you'll see so that you can get further free in-depth training. You need to understand this in much deeper form than I can cover off in this short video. There is so much to learn. And then we talk about inventory turnover. You know, when you're turning your inventory over 3 or 4 times a year, you're going to make this much profit. We turned ours over at 6.7 times per year. Walmart does it at 7.3. Some people are only turning their inventory 2 or 3 times a year. And we're going to get into that in the next video. So make sure you click on that link so you can get to understand all of the factors that go together that create that magic it's like pouring gasoline on a fire that's going to drive your profitability straight up and give you more of this to put in your pocket. See you on the other side. Now here's another way to looking at inventory turnover and how it can affect your bottom line. You look at the 2 columns on the right. One shows inventory turnover of 2 times and the other at 3. But notice the difference in the inventory at year end. Sold the same amount of dollars in sales, but we had less inventory at the year end. We utilized that inventory and turned it over so quickly. Look at the difference in profit. There's $6,600 more profit based upon the same number of sales. That is dramatic. Just turning over the sales, turning the inventory over that much quicker generates so much more to your bottom line. And this can be done in a couple of different ways. Number one, by getting to know the merchants, by going to trade shows, you can then develop a relationship. And we've been offered discounts just because we were there. If we'd have bought from the sales rep, we'd have paid X. And because we were at the show and they got to know us over a couple of years, they offered us discounts of 10 and 20% right off the regular merchant just because they liked us and we were a steady regular customer that they knew. They didn't know us from the sales rep. They knew us personally. The other part is you'll be made aware of discounts that you may not find out about if you're not there. They're going to have a show discount. They're going to have an inventory clearance that they'll tell you about. Well, that can lower down your cost of buying without you having to lower the the retail price. So that dramatically can help turn over that inventory quicker. And then you can negotiate terms. If you can get 60-day terms or 45-day credit terms with them, and you're turning your inventory 4 or 5 times a year, you can often sell the product before you have to pay for it. So these things are absolute must-dos if you're going to be in business. Well, we've covered a lot of territory today. A lot of information that, is mind-bending for a lot of people. It takes a lot to absorb it all. And in the subsequent training that we're going to be offering, there's going to be a lot more in-depth of this. And we have some little tools that you'll want to have to help you figure all this out. Little calculator type stuff that will save you a bunch of time and aggravation and concern and worry. Or, am I doing this right? I'm not a math major. All of the kind of tools that are going to really be helpful to get you where you want to go. We've built and sold 2 businesses, as I mentioned, and we've trained a lot of people on how to be successful as vendors. And we hope we can train you as well to take you to either to the next level of where you want to take your current business, or if you're starting a new one, to get you there that much quicker. And it took us 17 years to learn a lot of this stuff. You don't learn it all in the first year, because when we started, there was no training course. We started by the seat of our pants. And that's not the best way to go. It takes a long time and a lot of mistakes along the way to realize that was dumb. Why did I do that? But at the time, it seemed to make sense. Buying mistakes at shows can absolutely kill you, because you've got money now tied up that you can't get rid of the product. And you can't afford to go buy new stuff because your money is sitting there in the garage or in the basement or on your sales racks, and you don't have any more cash. So stopping the buying mistakes alone is going to save you a truckload of money and make you even more, because now you've got the cash flow to be able to reinvest and turn a profit, because the stuff that's sitting there is not making you money. So our course is coming up, our training course on how to be a vendor, a profitable one, and have more money in your jeans at the end of the day. So click the link below, so as soon as the training course is available, you'll be made aware of it. You won't want to miss out, because I assure you that the cost of the course is a lot less than one buying mistake, one pricing mistake, and you can do it yourself. No, definitely, you can learn all this yourself. It'll just take you 17 years. You know, if we can move that 17 years and compress that down and give that to you so you can absorb it over a course of 1 year or maybe a year and a half, because you have to go back and study this stuff over and over again. You're not going to get it all at once. And you'll have access to the material. So click on that link below and stay in touch. We'll love to get to know you better. Have a great day.